Hello, my friends, and welcome back to episode 11 of the Second Aid Show. And trust me, we have a really interesting one today. But firstly, as usual, for these big episodes, we have a really big panel. And acting basically as my replacement today for most of the discussion will be Chen. Hello, my friend, firstly.
Oh,
Okay, okay. It sounds like you really do want to be here, but anyways, I'm not sure if you could tell on Twitter for the last week. I have been quite sick, so Ken will be the main chair of the discussion today. But we also have a special guest on today. We have Helen, the clueless fangirl. Not say Helen the clueless, but yeah, her channel is the clueless fangirl. Hello, my friend.
Hello, people.
Great for you to be here. We also have Kyle. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing better than you.
We'll see. Yeah, you are. And we've got Lekitia.
I think it's high time we learned anything about the elves in the show, so really happy to be here.
And also joining us as a debut on the Second Age show, we have Tolkien Tube as well.
great to be here, like usual.
Indeed, great to have you on and to have everybody on for today. And I'll try get through this first part quickly so I can rest my voice. But we are going to be revealing who the character in the photo released by Amazon is. And of course, this has been debated for quite a while. Who could it be? And just before we go into saying it, just a spoiler alert. No, it seems like, and when we were told as well, no one has guessed it right, which is a really interesting thing. And we are going to be discussing that and seeing first of all, how is this character, etc. But also, we also have some interesting rumors around some stuff that we'll see in the first episode as well. So it's going to be split into two parts, mainly the big bit of news and then the second bit of news. And also, I'd like to say, this is out of everything released so far, this is the most confident I've ever been for releasing information because, first of all, it's a really big piece of news, and if it does go, and if it is for us, the massive ramifications it can have to our credibility, etc. So, I would bet a lot of a lot of money on this being true, and I think what we are releasing today around the first part is true. And the second part, we're going to be doing it as an exclusive rumor. So around that unconfirmed rumor, how you want to say it. So yeah, that's distinguishing the two. But we are going to be revealing, as I said earlier, who the character is finally in that picture. And before we go into it, of course, even though I say we confirmed it, nothing is confirmed until Amazon do it themselves. So yeah, once, of course, it's officially confirmed once Amazon do it. But we, Fellowship of Fans, are confirming that this is indeed the character we're going to be revealing is true, and it has come from sources close to the show. So I think without further ado and me rambling on, let's get right into it. So, exclusive, we have heard and we can 100% confirm without a shadow of a doubt that the character in this image is, quote, Galadriel's brother. I hope you guys can see what I did there, but it is Galadriel's brother. So that's 100% nailed on as a fact. And then now where the speculation bit comes in, that if it's Galadriel's brother, most likely it is Finrod, but of course that is not confirmed, and that's just speculation as well. And we also know that Galadriel didn't have one brother, but she had three, and we'll be going into them as well. So yeah, what we know for fact is that the person in this image looking on the hill, I think it's the hill tune, I'm not sure, but looking at Tyrion is in fact Galadriel's brother, and that means it can most likely, presumably, be Finrod. But of course, there's chance of the other two as well, and we'll be discussing that as well. But Ken, I'm going to be this is where I part now. But yes, this is pretty big news that we can finally reveal who the person in the picture is, and people who want to know this for quite a while. Maybe it doesn't say too much about the show in general, but it's a thing that we've been wanting to, known because they got released at the beginning of September, and we wanted to know for quite a while. Maybe who's this? Because no one knows. Remember, thing around the man bun, they have a dagger on them, etc., and so many different things. The shoulders, is it masculine, feminine, etc. And I'm sure a lot of people originally thought this was Galadriel. So I'm thinking just going on to this Hen, because I've said he's going to be taking over my role now and heading discussion. So yeah, take it away, my friend.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Finrod is not a major character, but a very well-known character. Certainly the most well-known of all of Galadriel's, what is it, three brothers? The most impactful to the story as well. The most impactful for, I think, Galadriel herself, which is really kind of the point here. To kind of make Galadriel's case to make it kind of a hard luck case, kind of, oh, poor woman, lost a brother, lost, that sort of thing, which is a good tactic for characters, by the way. And also it's convenient for Amazon's purposes because basically everything they need about Finrod is in Appendix B of the Lord of the Rings. So in terms of copyrights and that sort of thing, it's something that's very easy to delve into. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and I think his Finrod's story is tied really closely to Sauron, so his death could serve as an excellent ground upon which to build the antagonism between Galadriel and Sauron after Sauron is revealed as such. And we also have an actual mention of him looking back towards Tirion, where Amaria, his beloved, remained after the exile of the Noldor, but because apparently she wasn't allowed to go to exile with them. But the image that Amazon released can't have been that, because the Noldor only leave after the trees have been destroyed. And they seem very much alive in the image, but I still think it's a really nice throwback. And besides, like Hen has already mentioned, Finrod is a very beloved character, and he's got all of the, heroic characteristics. He's courageous, he's loyal, he's kind, he's generous. Please just stop me. I could go on. and I really think he's left more impact on Middle-earth and the readers than his other two brothers. And, this may be a little bit more far-fetched, but without Finrod, there would be no Elrond either. As he helped Elrond's great-grandparents to survive. Yeah. So I think he's the best candidate.
Okay, if I can add something to that, I really liked what you said. And for me, he is always the link to humanity, because the thing is, he is literally called friends of the humans, right? And the thing is, there is a really cool dialogue. I don't know if many people know that, but he has a close friendship with a mortar woman. She's called Andreth, and she's also from the House of Bear. And they have a really cool dialogue about, dying and the gift of men and all that. And yeah, well, as you said, Nikita, the thing is, he and Galadriel, are the most fleshed out in the Silmarillion and all the additional content. They are the most fleshed out of the four, basically, of the four siblings. So I really do think it's him and Galadriel, because we know she visited him. We know a lot about, their relationship, or more about their relationship. So I do think it would make sense they would show him and portray him.
Yeah, indeed, and if I may add to that, when the Noldor were leaving Valinor for Middle-earth, he was mentioned as one of the leaders of Fingolfin's, host. So yeah, he was pretty big, up there with Galadriel.
Right. That's a lot of good. Yeah, go ahead, Galifin. I was going to call on you anyway.
Yeah. All right. So I just think this is interesting, contrasting it to one of Thomas Shippey's quotes. I do this like every single podcast, relating it back to what Shippey says. But he says, events could be mentioned at the most if they explain the events of the Second Age, but if it's not described or mentioned in The Lord of the Rings or in the appendices, they probably cannot use it. So we do know that Finrod is actually mentioned in the appendices. So chances are this is just a flashback. I doubt it's like we're actually going to have him be in the series like an actual character, but especially contrasting him to the Númenóreans, just men in general, to Galadriel and several other elves, that would be a really good way to establish some other characters and give depth to even Sauron.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with
I didn't even think
everything.
of some of these things.
Yeah, same here. It's telling. I think 99% this has to be Finrod. It makes the most sense, but just to play devil's advocate, I mean, if they're exploring the backstory of Galad, it could easily be Angrod as well.
Huh. I didn't think of that. Yeah, go ahead, Lakidia. I'm just processing a couple of these ideas.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle, do you want to elaborate on why Angrod would be a really good candidate as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if we're going to see the beginning of, Gil-galad's letter and things like that of that nature, if that's where we're jumping in, then I could certainly see us exploring, that history as well. And I think that, like I said, I think Finrod makes a lot more sense, but this is certainly another possibility.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if Gil-galad was to be one of the lead characters for this show, which we still don't know if he's going to be, like if the show is centered upon the late Second Age, that would make a lot of sense. So that's not like one of the most set in stone things about Tolkien's writing, but in one of the versions, Angrod actually was a forebearer of Gil-galad. Like final conceptions by Tolkien seem to imply that Gil-galad is Orodreth's son. In that case, he would be Angrod's grandson, I think. So that may be interesting to explore.
It could be.
And maybe I just want to throw back to what Gallifane said a little earlier. I really agree that if Finrod appears, and it seems that he does, I don't think he's going to be a big character at all. I think it's just going to be a cameo, maybe a few lines here and there. And I think it's just going to be a guest role. So if they were to film a first stage series or films or anything like that, I'm pretty sure he'd be recast. Just like Galadriel was recast here too. And I think Finrod appearing for just a few minutes, he'd surely get recast.
Yeah, it's the same capacity, I think, as kind of the Isildur role in the Fellowship of the Ring. Is it like a word, no, and other than that, mostly a couple of brief shots, and that's basically all the role. So yeah, that sort of thing, where it's important to the show, it was important to the movies, but it's not a big role by any means. It's basically a cameo. So yeah.
If I can chime in on that one, I do think so. For me, always, because Tolkien was very that was always very important for him, this whole kingship and the firstborn son, the firstborn daughter, blah blah blah. He always mentions that, right? So Finarfin obviously didn't go to Middle Earth. He was the brother. Fingolfin went, but he was the brother that then returned, and plead for forgiveness and went back to the Undying Land. So basically, Finrod is now the head of the family, because it's not Galadriel, it's not Angrod, it's not Agnar. Finrod, as the oldest son of Finarfin and Eärwen, is basically the head of that branch of the family. Fingolfin is obviously there, and then he later becomes the High King. But you have Fingon, Turgon, and Fingolfin's line of the now living oldest son, basically, from that second marriage. But for me, Finrod is always, the head of that family. And I think that is also, we should keep that in mind, when it comes to who would they portray to give us, which is probably, for me, I think it's a prologue. It will be very similar to what we were given with Galadriel in The Lord of the Rings, when she introduced this. I still believe he will start with, this is, where my family actually comes from. These were our origins. We had to leave these lands because this and this and this happened. This is how I, in a way, imagined the prologue and the monologue of Galadriel. And this is now the new version of Finrod doing this. This would be beautiful.
Yeah, and it's very pertinent because the whole thing is it's the nature of the show and the current climate of television that it's going to have probably a lot of talk about bloodlines and heritage and that sort of thing. So yeah, Finrod in being the head of the family, it didn't even occur to me. That's a really good point. Mm-hmm.
because he always explains, he always explains, and then he became the High King, but only because Medros allowed it, and the other
Yeah, sure.
Noldorians, they were not okay with it, so it would make sense, to give him an importance, and we know he's mentioned, so, tick, tick, why not choose him?
Yeah, that's again many points that I didn't think of, probably because it's such abrupt news, but this idea of Finrod, but sure, yeah. And I will say, I think, there's Finrod, we've covered a lot of things that Finrod is relevant for, and his connection to mankind, his connection to the Numenorians, really, because he saved the progenitor of their bloodline, so yeah, absolutely, but at the same time, I really, really think that the function of Finrod here, again, probably as a minor role, is mostly in Galadriel's backstory. Like you said, Helen, I wouldn't be surprised if the whole sequence is narrated by Galadriel. It's a question. Finrod looks grown up in this shot. We don't know whether we'll see a grown-up Galadriel in this backstory, or if we'll see a younger version. I don't know. So yeah, there's a lot there. So yeah, didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, maybe let's talk about how he ended, right? Because I think that's also very interesting, because I said that to Fellowship before when we talked about various characters a while ago. The thing is, when you introduce a character to a show, but everybody knows, or people who read, then back and are like, but he's dead. So that's very, anticlimactic when you, so, but the thing is, that whole bloody line of all the Numenorians, all of Finwë's children, except Galadriel, basically are dead, and grandchildren. So that makes it quite hard. Well, in the Second Age, not. But the thing is, it's for the viewer, for a casual viewer, you want to relate to a character, and then they introduce somebody, and then this is for me the only thing that could speak against it, even if you say, it's just a few episodes, 1 or 2, or the first 2 pilots, where he appears. But the thing is, when everybody, Googles that character, and then they're like, but he's dead, so you introduce me to a world by a character who then literally dies. That's a bit, I that was the only that just came to my mind when I just thought about it now. The downside of I'd rather have a character who lives through the second, or maybe even the third age. But it's hard with his family because, they all die. Spoiler.
Yeah, but then again, his death is one of the most significant ones in the first stage, I think. Because just to recap quickly, Finrod's story wraps up with Beren, actually, and Beren and Luthien. So Beren's father, Barahir, saved Finrod during the war with Morgoth, and in return, Finrod promised him and his family, his kin, aid for times to come. So I think it was 10 years later, Beren visited Finrod in Nargothrond, asked him, for aid on his quest for the Silmaril. So Finrod went with him, and they got caught by Sauron. And there was this magnificent duel between Sauron and Finrod, and Sauron prevailed, and he imprisoned Beren and Finrod. And there was a werewolf that picked their colleagues one by one, and in the end, when the werewolf came for Beren, Finrod stepped in and literally sacrificed his life to help Beren survive. So we have this big death, this big cinematic death, basically at Sauron's hand. So I bet this is another thing that could make Galadriel really, really hate Sauron very much.
Yes, and
the tower he built.
Yeah.
The tower he built. He died in the tower he built, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, and another point that just came to me, by way of kind of prequel moments, would be that, isn't it Finrod who gives Beren, gives it to Barahir? The ring of Barahir it's actually a ring of Finarfins, I think, that comes down to Finrod and goes, I didn't even, it just occurred to me. So yeah, that would be a nice kind of prequel moment. To have.
Yeah, and Aragorn shows it. Aragorn proudly wears that bloody ring. So.
And it's the one of those things where if you didn't know the lore, if you watched the Two Towers, you're like, what? There isn't really an explanation. So it's a nice prequel moment in that way, because it explains something that is otherwise left unexplained. Yeah, cool. I didn't even think of that, but yeah, sure. Galafane, what's your take?
I think it personally kind of reminds me of how Gil-galad and Elendil are killed by Sauron at the beginning of Peter Jackson's trilogy, Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's not exactly the same because we don't know if we're going to see Finrod. Well, presuming it's Finrod, which is very, very likely. We don't know if we're going to see him die, but assuming we are going to, that really reminds me of Peter Jackson's trilogy. And effectively, that flashback would put a lot of focus on A, Sauron, and B, Galadriel, and that would really put a lot of tension between them, kind of like what I said before. And it would, I guess it's further proof of continuity to Peter Jackson's trilogy. In a way, if it's Sauron-focused, just like the trilogy was, although it's, of course, not very concrete, and we've got much better evidence of it, like the Numenor photo.
Oh, that shot of sure.
The staircase.
Yeah, that staircase. It's in the same. What you're getting at is it's in the same architectural style. That's your point, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. I don't think this thing in itself really is a kind of furthering of our understanding that the show is, but it could be. It could be, and but you're right. It's a similar device to the Peter Jackson device. It's a similar device to the Peter Jackson device, not just with Isildur and Gil-galad, but really with Thror as well. It's exactly the same idea, but it does. It's the sort of thing that still points towards a kind of going to all these lengths for Galadriel's backstory would really suggest that she has a major role, and that she has a major role in the kind of, forging of the ring time.
Yeah. And so, with what I said about Sauron, I really don't think it hints to continuity too much. But, if the series is focused on Sauron and The Lord of the Rings was focused on Sauron, and even The Hobbit was to some degree. They had like a subplot which was focused on Sauron. It just keeps the same direction that Peter Jackson's trilogy was headed.
Yeah, but isn't that baked into Tolkien? Because Tolkien, the villain in all of his stories is either Sauron or Morgoth. There's no Tolkien story that has a villain that isn't at least subservient to one of those.
That's true.
So yeah, which I like actually, but the point that I was getting at, and it took me a while to get to it, is that it points towards the Celebrimbor era, so to speak, in a way, that we maybe don't know to explain very well, but it does.
I think it's fair to say that from after the discussion so far that it is probably, it makes sense that it is Finrod, but of course that is not confirmed. But I think it's still just for the slight chance that it could be the other two. Helen, I'll start off with you. Do you think you could see Amazon going with the other two brothers, or would it not make sense? 'Cause I think you had a good point about that earlier. If you want to elaborate on that.
I wouldn't. At the start of the conversation,
is your name Helen?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just changed personality, so we had an identity swap. Hi, I'm Chen. I'm German now. No, so for me, I'm still not sure. This is not Galadriel, people. I'm like the person in the image. I'm really not sure. For
Helen,
me, I'm like 50.
It's not Galadriel. It's 100%. It is. That is Finrod. It's not Galadriel.
I don't know. Just leave me with my Galadriel story. No.
Close enough, though. Close enough.
Yeah. Because we were
You
told.
would take my Finrod from me. This is really, really
Yeah.
cruel of you, Helen. You're gonna get heaps of Galadriel anyway. Like, can I please have my Finrod for those 10 minutes?
I know.
Because when we
Okay,
were
okay.
told about the news, it was like no one has guessed it so far, which is shocking me. And
Yeah.
I think it is true with having
Yeah.
Finrod. No one did guess at the person in the image right now on screen. It looking at Tyrion is in fact Finrod, but just again,
I actually looked through my comment sections after you told me this, and I just didn't want to have said, "Oh no, there's no way it can be Finrod," because I'd look like an idiot. Thankfully, nobody suggested that, because if they did suggest it, I would have said, "There's no way."
yeah, and I think in the wider community as well, no one's mentioned Finrod or anything.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, and that's
No,
I've
maybe.
only
no.
seen the name come up
Not
a few
as a-
times.
Yeah, not as a very plausible, alternative
I'm
anyway.
we're sure someone has probably, in either subreddit
Yeah.
or a message board said this could be Finrod, but I don't
Yeah.
think with a lot because there were actually a lot of really interesting theories. I know off the top of my head, I think Voice of Geekdom had another YouTuber had an interesting theory. I forgot who it was. I think it was Mag. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but he had the theories. Others, a few others. Some a bit. I don't get where some of them were coming from, and but I think so. So yeah, but what does this choice look at you? Because I know you really want to I know this piece of news has made it quite interesting for you, but what does
yeah.
this choice by Amazon show about their process for this show? 3, 4 years ago, we were told second age show. Now we're getting not only Tyrion but now Finrod. What do you think that poses?
Okay, so that shows that Amazon really, really just wants to confuse the bleep out of us because nobody was expecting that. That's so way back. That's even, that's the years of the trees. That's not even first age stuff, like the image that we see in Valinor. So I really, what their strategy is here really confuses me. Why they would put, Finrod, as much as I love having him, why they would put him in is beyond me, honestly.
And I think this does lead to a more a Galadriel focused first episode showing her backstory, which would make sense. But do you think potentially if there is a shorter prologue, maybe Finrod is actually speaking and doing the dialogue for it? That'd be quite interesting. But anyways, I think another point from that is that it does show. It could potentially show. You could bring Sauron into this as well because he of course we know what happens. Actually, we don't know what happens, but that near the end and with his death as well. But yeah, what do you think about this talking to?
I don't really think it could be Finrod who's narrating it, because he dies, and especially if he is the one in the image, which that's your supposition there. It'd be kind of awkward if he was in the flashback, because you'd imagine he was talking about himself in first person if he's the one on screen, and especially given that he dies.
Yeah, I think that.
Well,
does-
but
I think that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, it's like how the prologue in the Fellowship of the Ring isn't narrated by Elrond, who's in some of the shots. It's narrated by Galadriel, who isn't.
But Galadriel will be in some of these shots, 100%. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
But
how
she also exists into like the Third Age, in Middle Earth, of course.
Yeah.
And so it would make sense for her to be a narrator because she's still in Middle Earth. She's a lore master.
So, but I think we can all collectively agree that this does seem like the first two episodes, the two JAB and a prequel, pilot episodes, is looking towards potentially a Galadriel's backstory and explaining that further. And at the start of the video, we said that we had two pieces of news. So this is the confirmed main bit that we know 100%. But then the second part is we still have heard this as well. Of course, we're going to leave this as an exclusive rumor though at the same time. So yeah, but this is also from episode 1. So, and that is that in episode 1, J.A.B.Ona's episode, Galadriel and the other elves will be climbing snowy and icy mountains. They are crossing this potential looks like a snowy plain, and then Galadriel and the other elven host, another interesting thing, enter, or they go to this cave and they encounter a troll. troll. Not the people you find on Twitter. Just a general, like, I think a cave troll, I think you could say. So yes, this is in episode 1 as well, and of course we cannot. We haven't been told anything else and like any specific terms. But Helen, what do you think this leads itself to being, without me physically saying it?
What? I mean, without it physically
You're
saying
saying-
it.
I know.
Well, you know how. Well, how did they get basically from the Undying Lands to Middle Earth? Well, they needed to cross somewhere, right?
And I think we can say that this does sound extremely, extremely like the Hell Karakse, and I think I'll let
Yeah.
you take it on from here.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain what they did basically? What happened
Yeah,
in,
go
in
for it.
short? Yeah, okay, perfect. So as I said, right, the 3 brothers basically started off, but then there were just 2 brothers. So Fingolfin, the second oldest, and Feanor, and the host of the Noldor. They couldn't. Fingolfin couldn't follow his brother because he burnt the ships at the harbor, and then Fingolfin and his host had to cross the Helcarax, which is an icy wasteland, and you can imagine if you remember the movie, was it in Fellowships where they crossed the Caradras Pass? I think it's in Fellowship. I think it's in the first one, right? So imagine that just 10 times worse. It's like crossing the Alps on foot, basically. And yeah, so it's an icy wasteland, and even elves died there, which is really, really important to know, because you think of elves, oh, they can endure any hardship. No, a lot of people died. Turgon's wife, one of the sons of Fingolfin, so his, she died there. There other people were dying. Lots of elves they lost in the ice. So I think this is a really cool image they can portray there, right? And it shows them then arriving, how angry they were at their own family. This could be also this family twist and feud beefed up in showing this. But I think it's really cool images with you just saying what we could see there. So yeah, I'm excited to see. Yeah, the visuals will be epic.
It's not something we've really seen before. This kind of tundra, this kind of
exactly.
like ice,
Yeah. And you must imagine the OG baddie. This was the path of the OG baddie. So Sauron's former master, Morgoth, he always used that path to cross and to flee, basically,
With
from the
Ungoliant
gods.
as well, yeah.
Yeah, and Ungoliant, all the baddies used that pathway.
Sure.
And then the elves had to do this. But I really want to see, this hardship, because this is not how elves were portrayed before. Yes, you see them fighting and all that, but most of the times they're doing pretty well, right? But this, I think we'll see lots of death and, like, oh, okay, the elves are not as strong as or not strong. Strong is maybe the wrong word, but they can die, right? Yeah. So I think that will be really cool to see.
Well, for me, frankly, I can't really envision why Amazon would go to such great lengths to show us Galadriel's history. Like, Helcaraxe itself isn't a particularly big cornerstone in her story or anything, except to, show that she emerged as one of the leaders of Fingolfin's host on the track. I mean, it's certainly, like Hans said before, it's a very dramatic visual, like a landscape unlike any we've ever seen so far. It's basically the North Pole. Like, one possible reason I could see that they would be showing Galadriel's, history is to show her relationship to Middle Earth itself, like what she left behind. So if we start off in Valinor, which is implied by the image that they've released. So this is what she left behind. And then we also see what she had to endure to arrive in Middle Earth. So that's the whole Helcaraxe scene. And maybe also, how long it takes for her to finally get a realm of her own to rule later on throughout the show. But apart from that, why Helcaraxe is really beyond me.
And I think indeed, but I think another thing TalkTube talked to me about is the cave troll, what they encounter in a cave. That I think we can assume that's in the same snowy place as well. So presumably the Helcaraxe. So what does that seem? It seems like, and I think can I give you a few minutes as well to find some quotes about Morphy Clark said about how physical it was like on set in the first 2 episodes. And of course, another thing, remember those leaked photos and set pictures from last year that we released of that snowy, icy mountainside? But now we've been told that Galadriel is she is now climbing mountainsides. So they're probably filming at Auckland Film Studios at that time. But I think so. Yeah, back to that again. Talking to you, a cave troll, Galadriel, episode 1. What do you take from this?
Well, I don't know. I maybe need a little bit more time to think about it, but it's definitely interesting. Like you said, Galadriel, we've already known that Galadriel's going to have some fighting scenes, so this sort of goes along with that. It's also interesting that we're going to see a group of elves, and if this is, way before the Second Age, like we believe it is, because, it's got Finrod, in this flashback, I'm assuming that it's going to be in the same sequence, which it may not be. I wonder what elves we're going to see. Presumably, we're going to have Galadriel and Finrod together, at least at some point, and a few others as well. Unfortunately, not Celebrimbor.
Yeah, we shall. Do you think were the people who said that could be Celebrimbor in the photo? I really doubt that, but that people did say that, but I'm sure as well. But
yeah, people, not me. It was definitely not me. Definitely.
Okay, okay, before I start, yeah, so yeah, Helen, anyways, continue with this as well. This cave troll, we now know is in episode 1. A rumor. Take this away. Yeah, like ice troll. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really want, because I think we didn't get that. Tolkien introduces in the books, in his Legendarium, way more creatures than we saw in the movies, right? So I think that's really cool to introduce more, because he literally took, sorry, my cat is very loud, they're hungry. So, sorry, people. The thing is, he has vampires there, right? There are werewolves. I mean, you see partly some of them, right? Yeah, but this is really cool if they would have, ice trolls. Like, I want to see a bloody ice troll or an ice spider. Just imagine. Yeah, or just imagine Ungoliant met some spiders then. Maybe we'll get something like ice spiders. Game of Thrones people can relate to this. This is what they wanted for the last 10 years. But the thing is, I want to see more creatures overall in the series. And this could be a cool way to introduce very special ones in this very special terrain. So I think that would be really cool to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll actually go the other way here. For me, I mean, yeah, sure, show me new creatures. I'm fine with that. But to be including action scenes in what is most likely just a flashback or a prologue, I think that's a bit odd. Like, it could be a very brief scene, but I think the main hardship of the Noldor journey wasn't snow trolls or anything like that, but it was the harsh landscape itself.
Yeah.
Like, for me, the terror lies, not so much in the heart-pumping battles, but, just in the heart-stopping cold or something. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, but I think I'm not sure if we're the same opinion on this, because I know you say this a lot, but at the same time, it is the first episode of the Amazon Lord of the Rings show. They're 500 million IP. It makes sense that they would.
You want to open with a bang.
Yeah, that is very
That's
true.
what you're getting at. You want to open with a bang. You want to open like a James Bond movie, actually, with an action set piece. A lot of movies do that.
I mean, you want to open with that. I don't.
No, I don't mean... I mean, I get the idea if they do that. I'm fine with movies that don't open with action set pieces, but it's a tactic that movies and shows of this size often do. And it can be very effective. So we'll see.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I don't know if anyone else has watched Foundation yet, but I will say that the first 2 episodes were very much world building and less focus on character development, and there's a lot of big visuals and it's striking, and then this most recent episode it kind of dives more into the characters and stuff. So I can see wanting to open the show on a big visual with lots of action and stuff like that. I think it makes sense to draw the casual viewers in.
Also, back to the action sequence, that wouldn't surprise me because they're going to probably be catering to their main demographic, which is men probably in their 30s or 20s. I don't know, even teenagers, I'm sure it'll be popular with them. Just from what, like, my demographics for my YouTube channel, it's like 99% men.
Well, I think fantasy in general is like, I don't know, pretty much 50-50 at this point. I know gaming is. Yeah.
No, fantasy is not. No, I worked for TV and I did all this research for 3 years and in marketing, and sadly it's not. I think they want to win over more and more female audience, because it is proven that partly women spend more on different and more expensive stuff, but very often the men are the ones who buy the thing is, like Amazon Prime or that they are the ones who buy it. Women tend to not buy that stuff, or like Funkos, all that stuff Amazon will make money with, right? It's very male dominated and fantasy, sadly. I think we all can agree, if you look at our YouTube demographics, if you look at even on Instagram, the demographics for all the pictures posted and everything, it's mainly men, and who's on Instagram? Mainly women. So, the niche is already very, very small, but it's still men. So, yeah, sadly.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, sure. It is what it is. People have different preferences. But yeah. Action scenes are cool. So we've talked really a lot about Finrod and about the Helcarac scene now, which I think makes a lot of sense in terms of information that we've seen before. So I'm struggling to kind of think of anything by way of like a concluding comment by myself. So so I'll just pass it over to everyone. So who Kilia, do tell us what you think.
Okay, so as for me, like I said, the prospect of having Finrod is a very exciting one. Certainly a very, very unexpected one. I'm pretty sure he's not going to play a role in the Second Age timeline. I mean, during this time, he's supposed to be chilling in Valinor with Amaria and with his father and everything. I think Amazon could still diverge and have him appear, but I think that's extremely unlikely. So just have him there. But what really gets me curious is why they chose to show a picture with Finrod as their very first picture of a Second Age show. This is something I can't wrap my head around. So maybe marketing people will help me out here. For me, this is a very, very interesting marketing strategy. Maybe, Helen, you want to shed some light on why Finrod could be a good choice for that?
I have no idea. I was surprised, just as surprised as you are. This is why I said I can't wrap my head around it. There will be more information in leading us to getting to understand why it's Finrod. It can't just be, okay, this is Finrod. There will be hints. There will be, I don't know, behind the scenes or whatnot. They will drop. Probably my guess is end of the year or whatever. If they drop the series in September. So I think they can't just say it's Finrod, because 99% of the people will be in who. So I think they have explanations leading to do this. I don't know. I still want it to be Galadriel.
A very broad-shouldered Galadriel.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that discussion again. I see the comment sections. People will be like, but what about the hair? Does he have a bun now? I mean, there'll be like gazillions of comments. Prepare yourself, people.
Yeah, sure.
I did think it was most likely her before, the revelation.
Me too.
So
yeah,
I did as well.
I
my
did too.
bet was on Glorfindel.
Yeah, that was a good guess too, I think. But I think overall it serves as a a backdrop for Galadriel's backstory, and I think that talks to the last point we mentioned as well about female audience members, right? Like I think having a strong female lead will certainly help pull in more of that viewership.
Mhm.
For sure.
And,
Indeed, and first of all, I think thank you for Ken for trying to replace my position today. I'm sure. I don't think you want to do this again anytime soon. I don't think.
it's an experience.
Yeah. Hope.
You did a good job.
Oh,
Ben
thank
felt
you.
like a zookeeper, you know, keeping all these keeping all these zoo animals.
All these trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
trolls, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for hosting.
So I think Gallifane. First of all, where can people find you?
Sorry, what?
Where can people find you?
Oh, on YouTube, not Twitter. I deleted that. So
That's why I
yeah,
was
just yeah, no space in Tolkien Tube or some really sketchy stuff. So yeah.
Also, Helen, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter under the Clueless Fangirl, and I do have a dedicated, actually to the Fast and Second Age dedicated YouTube channel, also under the Clueless Fangirl, and Instagram where I post fun stuff about Greek mythology and selfies.
Cool.
And also, yeah, indeed, please go check that. Also, thank you to the two co-hosts, Carl and Lakitia, as well. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Always good to chat with all of you. This is great.
And thank you to Lakitia as well.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm always down for talking Finrod, so this was magnificent.